From Transport Topics in Washington, D.C., this is Road Signs. And now here's your host, Michael Fries.
Thank you for listening to Road Signs, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we'll set out to answer this question. In what ways has technology assisted in improving driver safety? We're going to venture into this topic of driver safety with perspective from the fleet side with Tom DiSalvi, Vice President of Safety, Driver Training, and Compliance at Schneider National. But first, we're going to speak with Charlie Mohn, Director of Product Innovation for Drivewyze. Welcome to the Road Signs podcast, Charlie.
Glad to be here.
Great. Glad to have you on. Before we get into the actual product and service of Drivewyze, Safety Plus, let's kind of take a broader view of the industry when it comes to driver safety. Could you tell me more of the pain points in the industry that you have seen when it comes to driver safety?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so of course, driver safety at the end of the day is all about preventing accidents on the road. And if you look at the trends over time, driving a commercial truck is getting safer and safer thanks to major part a lot of technology. But there's always room for improvement. And I think at Drivewyze, like our mission really is to have a transportation system that supports safe driving, and our goal is to get to basically zero fatalities in the industry, which would be amazing. But so we have a long way to get there, of course, across the industry. But we see there continues to be a lot of if you look at the trends over the last several years, a lot of the same culprits pop up in terms of what's driving accidents. Speeding is continues to be one of the major causes of accidents on the road. We also there's other kind of micro trends we see. A lot of drivers we are very unhappy with the parking situation. That's not just a convenience issue at the end of the day. That's also a safety issue. That's top of mind for us as we think about how we work with our state partners and how we roll out technology as part of our solutions. And I think kind of broader than that, we also, if you look at the role of a safety manager or a fleet manager who's taking on that safety management activity in their fleet, they have a pretty daunting task of building a safety toolkit. There's all these new things coming out, new technology, new equipment, a lot of policies, whether government, regulated or not, that are evolving. A lot of new opportunities for training. Turnover continues to be a pretty big issue in the industry, which means a lot of new drivers on the road that need to get trained up and fall into the policies of a company. And it's a pretty daunting task. So we look at, how can we help fleet managers and safety managers in a way that's not going to, burden them with more work to do, but really help kind of ease that task of building a safety toolkit that, drives safety within their organization.
It sounds like the common theme in your answer is the human element, having training the drivers, number one, and number two, making sure, those drivers are adhering to the safety protocols when it comes to driving a Class 8 truck.
Definitely.
So when, massaging those concerns that you had just mentioned, how did you approach in the innovation of making, the service Safety Plus and working with the beta groups? Of course, you mentioned your state partners. What was that dynamic like in making this particular product? I mean, what were the goals, number one?
Yeah, great question. So, let me just kind of backdrop that a little bit. So Drivewyze, we've been a leader in the way station bypass service for about 10 years, and it's all app based. So we partner with all of the major ELD vendors in the market today. So most of the folks using our Drivewyze service have are basically in-cab notifications for way station bypass on their ELD displays in the cab. And so with this huge network of fleets, from a lot of owner operators, one truck up to, the biggest fleets in the industry are using our service. So, when we wanted to pursue the Safety Plus product, we tapped into that network, and we found about 8 fleets that wanted to work with us on developing this concept of in-cab safety notifications and taking that really to the next level. And we'll get into more detail around what Safety Plus does. And but at a high level, we worked with fleets that had 4 trucks to 8,000 as part of that beta process. And personally, I love it. I love the beta process. It's like, it's messy. It's you're in the kitchen. You're trying to come up with something new, trying to kind of refine that recipe, if you will. And we listened to our beta customers. We really developed this whole product based on feedback through that beta process. So you have an idea when you come up with a product around something that you think is going to resonate and work in the market. But the beta customers really help kind of take that to the next level, make sure it's something that meets their needs. So yeah, through that process, we had, again, small fleets and large fleets, and they each engaged in different ways. But we found it pretty cool that one of our largest fleets, actually about 8,000 trucks, that was testing this out, loved what we were doing so much and with customized safety alerts that they actually ended up hiring a dedicated person to basically leverage this brand new product that we're coming out with. And so we had really great feedback with them through the entire cycle. And yeah, it's we launched this back in the fall of 2020, and since launch, we continue to get that feedback from our early adopters and continue to refine the product to meet the needs of the market.
That's good to hear, Charlie. But what was some of that positive feedback that you were receiving that evolved into the benefits that the service has now?
Yeah, you bet. So really at a high level, Safety Plus boils down to 3 or 4 kind of categories of features. So the first category is what we call custom safety alerts or custom zones. And really that's a feature that allows fleets to basically go into a website, create a geofence location where they'd want to show an alert to a driver in a real simple way. And then not only just an alert the driver in cab with a safety message, but also analyze after the fact whether the driver responded to that alert, whether they slowed down. So maybe a goal is to get the driver to, just to drive slower. They can look back and analyze whether across their fleet drivers were slowing down. So I think we found that feature, this idea of custom alerts. We had ideas of it being cool, but once we actually got fleets using it, all the ideas that they came up with on how they're going to leverage it was really fun to watch. And so every fleet had different priorities, safety priorities. And and so those alerts are really all over the board. So one fleet was setting up alerts in their yard to alert drivers around basically where to safely park. Not a typical kind of accident prevention use case, but that was important for them. Another fleet was basically going in every day alerting drivers about bad road conditions in areas that their fleet traveled in, and whether that's weather advisory, high wind conditions, or road closures. They were actively kind of alerting drivers around issues that were going to slow them down and providing them guidance on where to go safely. And we've learned that since launching this, all of these different ideas around how custom zones could be used to help kind of each fleet uniquely solve their safety problems.
Mm-hmm.
Has been fun to watch.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to have you elaborate on the proactiveness. I mean, that you were speaking about, just kind of when you were talking about parking alerts,
Yeah.
and but there's also just kind of as I mentioned, the proactiveness of the speed alerts or just kind of something. I guess the service being a virtual driving coach. Can you speak more upon that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it really goes back to our vision, for our entire service. Is we don't want to burden fleet managers, safety managers with more data to look at and that they have to go, kind of sift through to figure out how they manage their drivers and train up their drivers. So the entire concept is really that we are truly a proactive safety service, and so through this ability to alert drivers for risk zones. Our service includes, by the way, about 2,500 locations that we curate and provide alerts to drivers around areas like low bridges, rollovers, steep grades, and then on top of that, this ability for fleets to create their own custom zones. Really is a way for safety managers, fleet managers to prevent accidents, prevent bad driving behavior before it even happens. So a lot of the other tools that are out there today, there's tons of great tools, and I'm not gonna say anything bad about the safety solutions that are out there today, because they're all playing their part in helping drivers stay safe on the road. But a lot of them are more reactive. So it's more around driver coaching, coaching drivers who are identified to have risky behavior, and then following up with them on driving better. That's important, but in this case, fleets can actually kind of prevent that conversation from even having to happen if they can tell drivers in the right spot how to avoid risk or how to prevent a collision.
From time to time, an issue commands so much of the industry's attention that it requires a deeper dive, a resource readers can turn to, a Transport Topics special report. We're turning our attention to another big issue, electrification and the key factors that will drive this industry trend. In every case, we're working to provide our readers with information, analysis, and clarity on key issues confronting fleets. One comprehensive resource packed with insights that can give you the edge. Transport Topics invites you to learn more about our special reports. To reserve your copy of the latest special report, visit ttn.ws/electrification.
Well, let's dive deep into, as you're saying, other partners, just kind of in a general sense. I'm going to ask you, Charlie, to put on your industry analyst hat. And I just want to ask you, where do you see with the influx of technology when it comes to safety and how it's helping drivers, or where do you see that in-cab technology and safety going in the future in the industry?
Yeah, great question. So it's certainly a lot of technology. A lot of the technology to date around safety has been driven by telematics platforms. So the data that's been collected just from a GPS, or a connected engine standpoint, and analyzing that data, right? Over the last 5-10 years, we've seen a proliferation of dash cams and video telematics, which has really augmented that with a new level of insight and data in terms of what a camera can capture that just a sensor can't. But we see we're kind of in the middle of it at Drivewyze. We're connected to way station bypasses, and this connectivity with infrastructure, I think is something that's going to be really significant. It's over time, and the idea of a truck being able to communicate with infrastructure, way station bypass is really kind of the tip of the spear there, where we tell a driver whether a way station's open or closed. We've already seen some states roll out smart parking systems where they can alert drivers about how many parking spots are open along the road and rest areas. We have some states that are pursuing projects where they want to provide truck-specific speed advisories on roads based on the vehicle's weight, based on way and motion sensors that are actually in the road. Other projects that are around supporting trucks having dedicated truck lanes on certain times of the day, for more safe travel down the certain corridors. So that's going to be it's kind of a long-term vision, but having connectivity in with the infrastructure is going to be really kind of allow safety managers to kind of let the infrastructure itself drive a safer driving pattern. I think the other thing too is we see this from Safety Plus is just in terms of how fleet managers, safety managers look at safety. It's not a competitive advantage for any fleet. Safety is safety. It's important. We see a lot of our companies, customers working together and collaborating for a common goal. So this whole concept of safety zones, we've had a lot of fleets come back and say, hey, can we, if we set up safety zones for a particular, area or use case, can we share that with other fleets? Or other fleets asking, could we have access to community-based risk zones? And that whole concept of collaboration for safety, I think, is the intent is there. We need platforms and technology to help drive and support that.
One of the things that I heard from your answer that I'm attached to is just analyzing the data. And I think for some fleet managers that I've spoken to and the stories that have been written in Transport Topics, there's kind of a pain point in there where you're talking about analyzing the data, but there's somewhat of a paralysis by analysis,
Yeah.
in that sense. When someone sees a product like this that fleet managers see and they're hopeful that can be useful in their company, it kind of gets to a point where we have so much information. What can I actually use to benefit my fleet? I mean, do you get that kind of concern with this product? I mean, or just in products in general? And if you do, how do you assuage those concerns?
Yeah, great question. So, definitely. I think, today there's so much data, and you have to know how to use it and leverage it in the right way. So, we view the data that we collect. We do provide access to that data through, through a portal we call Drivewyze Hub, where fleets can look at, kind of high level trends and identify, areas of risk and kind of drill into the details, identify specific drivers that are driving really well or not. But at the end of the day, you've got a lot of different tools that are providing these insights into safe or unsafe driving. And I think it's important for fleets to have a view into all these different systems that's kind of consolidated to make it as easy as possible. So we do have some of our ELD partners that have driver coaching platforms that integrate data from truck systems, brake systems, things like that, as well as telematics, and we're working with some of those partners to integrate our data in there as well. So having driver scorecarding is a really big trend that certainly is an important way to help kind of simplify that message and communication training with the driver. And we definitely want to continue to support that trend. I think the other thing too is really identifying, I guess, general tip is just identify what matters and what you're seeing, actually changing behavior, in your fleet. So there's certainly a lot of kind of common metrics that companies will look at, whether it's, what are hard braking or other, kind of leading indicators of risky behavior, but look at where your accidents are, look at, what categories of risk you're seeing that affect your CSA scores, and, focus in on the things that are going to, really drive, the most accident reduction for your fleet.
Charlie, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I really appreciate your insight, and thanks for making us smarter.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
In times like these, it's crucial to stay informed. Transport Topics is offering all the information you need to make business decisions in these unprecedented times. And in the wake of the many event cancellations and group gatherings, TT ensures a virtual way to consume business content and conversation. To join the conversation and stay ahead of the news, follow Transport Topics on all social outlets or by visiting ttn.ws/stay informed.
And now we welcome to RoadSigns, Tom DiSalvi, VP of Safety, Driver Training, and Compliance for Schneider. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. One of the things when it comes to driver safety, it has a whole new meaning than it has 20, 30 years ago. And there are so many dangers when it comes to driver safety, mentally, physically, and, the equipment as well. How have fleets used technology to identify and better avoid, these dangers when it comes to driver safety?
Sure, Mike. Well, the trucking industry, like all modes of transportation, it has its challenges, and these are challenges that we all work through. But I think before you can utilize the technology, it's understanding where are these challenges coming from, and how do you identify them so that you know what to put in place to prevent any future injuries or accidents. We get our feedback from our drivers. We have aggregated data that we look at to determine where our potential risk opportunities are and areas to prevent. And we even have our fleet with a forward-facing and side-facing cameras, and sometimes even the cameras themselves are able to help us identify opportunities. And then from there, once we understand what the challenges are, then we work towards preventing them. And when I talk about preventing them, it could be preventing injuries for our driver associates, and that could be implementing low-tech items such as working with the OEMs to spec different grab handles to reduce slip and falls, or moving. A number of years ago, we moved down the airlines and the electrical cords so that our drivers just didn't have to climb up on catwalks, things that could get them injured in a slip and fall. But then there's also some other more technical items, such as a air release fifth wheel handle, or we now use a ratchet style dolly crank. Areas that we know over time can lead to strains or injuries. We work to mitigate in that manner. And then, of course, similarly on the motor vehicle side, it's understanding where your opportunities are and then leveraging technology to address it. And the technologies, for example, lane departure warning systems, which I think people are familiar with, and now most recently the automated emergency braking, which in the trucking industry we refer to as collision mitigation systems.
It sounds like that your company is, basically has that balance where, you're balancing technology and the human factor. And, there's a lot of changes that have been made throughout the years when it comes to that, when it comes to safety in general. How is Schneider's training and protocols keeping up with that in the role of safety and protecting the drivers?
Well, you're right about that because the technologies that I mentioned, those are only to assist the driver. It never takes the place of a well qualified, well trained driver associate, and and that comes from a foundation of training and really safety culture from the organizational level. Despite the technology, if you don't have a strong set of policies, of standards, of high expectations, and then really most importantly, a culture of safety within your organization. The technology that I mentioned, it's really of limited value. It really is there to assist and to add on or to be additive to the driver's training and experience. But again, I can't emphasize the importance of culture because while the technology will help the drivers from a skill perspective, the culture and the safety protocols that you mentioned, those will help our driver associates know when to make the best decisions. And really, if the weather is bad, if they're tired, if they're ill, knowing that the organization would expect nothing less of them but to find a safe place to stop and check in with us versus to continue on. That having that culture sets all that up for our drivers to know that they're supported in that manner. We frequently say there's nothing that we haul that is worth somebody getting injured or putting others at risk. And so you set up that foundation, and then you put the training, you layer the training and the technology on top of that.
There's one thing you had mentioned, Tom, that's very interesting, and that's the culture. You had mentioned that culture, and how important it is for driver safety. What are some of the things that you're doing within the company to promote safety, to better incentivize drivers and employees to be more safe while they're on the job? What are some of the things that you're doing to improve that situation and to engage your drivers and to have those employees be safer?
Yeah, it's really multifaceted, but it again it starts with the clear expectation that nothing is more important to us than safe operations throughout our organization, whether you're a driver associate or whether you're a mechanic or whether you're a warehouse associate. We want everyone to go home the same way they came to work and feeling as good, if not better, than the way they came to work. So it's promoting that culture of safety, and then it's of course awareness. And while you can provide some initial training, you also have to reinforce that training. For our driver associates, we constantly have ongoing or monthly training videos, similar to what you might find if you were looking for something on YouTube. It might be a 5 or 7 minute video that reinforces a particular topic. It may be the importance of proper rest in the spring, particularly when we're getting ready to change in the time zones. Or it may be a reinforcement of proper coupling procedures from what was learned during the course of their initial training. But it's recognizing that through ongoing training and awareness, you're able to support that culture of safety and keep it fresh in front of the minds and the eyes of your associates.
I do understand that a tough task to promote safety within your organization. And in your experience in doing this, what are some of the pain points that you've seen in your company, or feel free to, even discuss industry wide, what those pain points are when it comes to safety. What are the things that you're seeing, and in what ways do you see your company and the industry as a whole to assuage those concerns?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so while I think everyone would agree and understand the importance of proper training and ongoing awareness, I can talk specifically about the leveraging again of technology. And really what part of that is understanding the person that you're trying to reach through the leveraging of this technology. And so, for example, in some cases, it's just generational. You have some uh, long tenured truck drivers that are not interested in a lot of technology. They're simply interested in, I want to drive. I don't need all this additional tech in my truck. I was fine without it. But what we find is that if you help them understand how it works and how it will be of benefit to them, it goes a long way. And an example I can give you is with our automated manual transmissions. We started AMTs. We started speccing our trucks almost a decade ago now with AMTs. And what we found was that we would have some tenured driver associates that would initially say, I didn't want this when you gave it to me, but if you tried to take it from me, I'd fight you on it, because they realize the true benefit of it. Similarly, with our, I've spoke about the collision mitigation system. Although there was some initial concerns about how it would respond, what they really liked was the adaptive cruise control that comes with it, and the ability for the system to automatically maintain a set space cushion for the drivers. On the flip side, I would mention that there are some drivers that are very tech savvy and are looking for more. They're looking for more technology to help make their life better, to help make their job easier. And for that, we've been able to implement a telematics platform. And that telematics platform is a one-stop shopping device where you can communicate, you can get your navigation, you can log your daily work, and it also has apps on it for truck scales and fuel and just things that in general make it easier for someone to work over the road. Of course, everything that we would build in that tablet and that we have in our tablet, we do it with an eye towards safety, because we need to make sure that it's not configurable when you're driving. But when you're stopped, all that information is right there in the tablet, and you can even take it with you. You can take it into the customer. You could take it home to check your work assignments, and that's been that for those that are tech savvy, that's something that they really appreciate.
You had mentioned that some are tech savvy while others are more tech adverse. Is that more of a generational thing?
In most cases, it is, but not always, because while I mentioned the tenured truck driver might not necessarily want the technology, we also have those who are very fluent in technology, and they know what's out there, and they know what capabilities should be, and candidly, they let us know what they're looking for, and so much of what we do when we evolve and we improve is based on our drivers' input and our feedback, and so that's certainly the case. I think that the challenge, though, can be as you're adding technology, and this is with whether somebody is maybe a little averse to technology or tech savvy, is you do run the risk of, if you don't train someone up front, in providing a little bit of overload to a driver. So it's important that you train the driver associates on the front end to understand, what does this mean when you receive this alert? What does the haptic warning mean in the collision mitigation? Well, what is we have, for example, we have a pre-pass system that allows our drivers to know when they need to pull into a scale or not. But that system also provides alerts on low viaducts and steep downgrades, and it's even mapped scenarios where there have been a high degree of rollovers in the industry, and it provides those alerts, letting the drivers know ahead of time what they can expect, what it means, and how to use the technology. That really goes a long way, because the last thing you want is for someone to just jump in and not know how to fully leverage or utilize the technology.
Speaking of technology, I like to focus on the implementation of telematics that you were just referring to a few minutes ago. That's sure is a game changer when it comes to that incorporation into fleets. Where do you see that in-cab technology fused with safety? How do you see that going into the future for the industry?
In terms of just the telematics itself, well, you know what, I would say really for all technology, here's what I would say. We would believe that it will to continue to refine the systems in the, we have a tablet that the telematics are housed in. Those systems will continue to become more robust. There'll continue to be more and more applications out there for drivers to use to enhance their workday and life over the road, and the safety technologies that we were talking about, they will continue to get better. We saw this over gosh, it's been probably a decade now, that when we started with collision mitigation, we see that the systems becoming more robust in terms of their detection and reaction. I think each of these systems will get better and better and provide more and more benefit to the driver. Ultimately, we know that this technology that I'm talking about, the ADAS, or this driver assistance technology, this driver assistance systems, these are the building blocks for automation. And while at some point in time we know that automation will arrive, and it may be not for a number of years, but until it does, I think we, as well as other companies, will continue to leverage this refinement of driver assistance systems, just because it helps keep them. It certainly helps aid the driver, makes them a safer driver, and then overall, it helps improve highway and roadway safety.
Tom, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Did you know you can ask Alexa to open Transport Topics? In just 1 minute, you will hear the biggest trucking headlines of that day. Be prepared and start your morning off right with Transport Topics.
Before we close, let's take a moment to revisit our original question. In what ways has technology assisted in improving driver safety? As we heard from our guests, improving driver safety is a never-ending task, and without any doubt, technology has played a major role in assisting those efforts. But as you heard, there is always room for improvement. Fortunately, there is space for fleets, OEMs, and developers to find solutions via telematics and other collision mitigation systems. While the industry makes progress improving on the components of telematics, the follow-through will remain in the hands of the human element. It's one thing for a low-tech device to inform and forewarn, but it's ultimately up to the driver to heed those calls. That's where training and partnerships come into play. For fleets, it's about providing a culture of safety and awareness to its employees. For their OEM partners and vendors, it's about establishing proper communication and working together to provide workable as well as sensible solutions to provide that security. If you enjoyed this episode of Road Signs, please let others know. Rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with the RoadSigns team and reach me on Twitter at Michael V. Freeze. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. And of course, we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode of Road Signs. Until then, I'm Michael Freeze. Thank you for listening.